Hey there, I'm your host Zoe, and this is part 2 of our health system. So with that, let's begin. We'll start by opening up our content drawer, and the first thing we want to do is let's create a new folder for our enemy. So let's call this enemy, and inside what we can actually do is, if we go to the third person character, we can duplicate this to save ourselves some time, and I'll call this BP_enemy. Now we can drag this enemy into our enemy folder we just made. And in here, let's get rid of everything we don't need. We don't need this. We don't need the camera boom, nor the follow camera, nor the spawn point. But what we do need is, if we select our mesh and type collision, if you remember, this needs to have the damageable channel. So we'll do custom damagable. Therefore, we know to collide with it. Let's go to our class settings and we compile that and get our interface. With that interface here, we can fill out these events. But before we do, let's add our component, that component there. And we'll do get health. And plug it in there. We'll go into our max health, do the same thing, get max health. And into heal, we'll do heal, and we want the function call heal, not the message. Like so. And one more, apply damage to apply damage. Once again, the function call, not the message. Like so, if you're calling the message, you're not doing anything there. So with that there, we can close these events, and back in our event graph on event begin play, which I need to get, we'll have a create widget, create health bar. Sorry, I called it health bar. So there, with that, we will promote it to a variable. Never hurts to have it, health bar. And to give this to our enemy, let's go to the viewport. First of all, I'll change the color to like blue so we know it's not a player. Next, we need to add our component. So widget component, and let's rename it to health bar. Now drag this into your mesh so it always follows the mesh wherever you go. And we can drag it out like 100, maybe 10 units off the floor. For world, we'll do on screen, and we get our health widget we made in the last episode. And this value will do as the draw or the size box. We had 200 by 20. So whatever you had, put those values in there. With that done, in the event graph, we can grab this and do set widget as, set widget. And this is the widget we set it as. Now, if we go ahead and damage our player, this should work right now. But before we do, let's go to the construction script. We'll grab our health component. And here we want to bind on our events. And you might ask, why do we want to do that? Perhaps you have a animation you want to play or a certain particle effect. So this is why you would have it here. So we can actually bind on damaged as well and damaged on dead. Now, I won't be having any animations playing, but I'll show you how you could set that up. I'll only be using the on death bind. Not call, but bind. Bind on death. There we go. So drag that out like so. And we can't have any custom events in here, so we'll create the events and we'll move them into our event graph. So let's get started. Matching event on healed. Matching event on damaged. And one more matching event on death. All right, so copy those, bring them into your event graph. And in here, get rid of those. And if you compile, you should have no errors, or if you don't put them in like me, then you will have. So put on healed there, on damaged, and on death. So now if you compile, you should have no errors. There we go. So if you did want to have a animation playing or something, on healed you do play montage like that. You'd plug in your mesh in here, you'd have your animation, whatever you have there, and extra logic, etc. So that's how you would do it. Now I won't be using it there, I'll just need the on death. So if our enemy does die, I am going to set physics, if I learn to spell, set simulate physics on the mesh. This is true, and we'll do set collision on the mesh as well. Set collision enabled. And with this, you want to be collision enabled, query and physics. So these two nodes will allow our enemy to ragdoll. Now, when the enemy does ragdoll, the capsule component still stays in the same place. So if you try to walk over it, it'll block you, it won't let you. So let's grab that and do destroy component. And we'll have a 3-second delay, after which our enemy will completely destroy itself. It'll despawn. All right, so I believe this is ready for testing. So let's add our enemy to the world and see how it goes. Make them face me, and if we save and play and hit them, boom, we get our health bar on the screen. And it stays on the screen for 5 seconds, goes away, hit them again, stays on the screen. Awesome. Now, if you wanted to change how much health your enemies have, there's 2 ways you could go about that. I'll show you the first way is if we go to our health component, click health and say instance editable and instance editable on our max health, compile that. Now, whenever you're in the game game viewport and select your enemy, scroll down here on the details panel and select your component, we can set this value here. So you could set this like 200 or 200 out of 300, for example. Now they'll be a little slightly damaged when we begin. There you are, they are. And if you don't want to do it this way, you can also set that in the construction script. So we'll get this and do a set health, and we'll do set max health. There we are. So for health and the max health, you can add a value of your choice. Let's say you do 300 and 300. If you do it this way, then you can't do it the other way because these values will override that. So just to show you, if I went here and maybe wanted 400, it won't let me. It'll go back to 300. But now if we play, you can see that the health has significantly increased. And now they die. Okay, so let's go ahead and create maybe an environment object, and then we'll go ahead and create our player's UI. So to get started, we'll create a new folder called maybe world items, and we'll do a nature pack, nature folder, and we'll do a blueprint component actor, bp underscore nature base. Now from here, I made that rock and the tree. So this is the parent. We can set the logic here and then just create a child. Firstly, we need a static box or a static mesh, which we can use for our purpose. And I'll just set it to 0.5 maybe, not to be that big. And we'll do a, what am I looking for? We want a stone. Or since this is the parent, I'll just do a square box. And if you remember, this needs to know about our trace. So custom channel on the collision, damagable blocked. Needs to have that blocked channel. On class settings, if I do that again, we can implement our blueprint interface health, as well as that adding our health component. And like we had before, just fill out these values. So I'll go ahead and do that real quick. And remember, when you're doing the heal component or the heal function, you want the function, not the message. So the same goes for our apply damage. We do apply damage, all function. Just be sure that's there. Okay, so that's all for now. And those are finished. And the same kind of stuff like we had on our enemy in our viewport. Let's add a widget called health bar. And we can move it up like 110 units, maybe off the floor, whatever you like. You can change it later. On the child, on screen, on space, we want our health bar. And for the draw size, like we had on the size box, 200 by 20. Oh, 20. So in here, I can actually go ahead and steal this code from the enemy, since it's pretty much the same. So back in our event graph, take that, put it in here. And if I compile, should give me no error. So create variable from this, and there we go, no errors. As well as that, in the construction script, I'll steal that without the health being set. Log that in there. Very nice. And we also want those events. Otherwise, we'll get the issue, the error. So in here, log those events in. And if I compile everything now, it should give me no errors. Beautiful. So as I was saying, I'll ignore those two. But on that, since this is just the rock, or the base parent for the rock and the tree, I'll do destroy actor. We can do whatever you want there. So let's close that down and maybe create a child of this. So create child blueprint class, and let's call this bp underscore rock. And with that, we can select our stone. Boom, there we are. And I want this to simulate physics, so we can move it and select the linear damping to 2 and angular damping to 2. You can play around with these values, but I found 2 to work great for me. So if we go ahead and put this on the floor, this will actually give you an issue because trying to simulate physics, blah, 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 basically it doesn't like it because it's using complex collisions. So in order to fix it, we'll open that up. A shortcut is Control-E while you have that selected. And if we go to that mesh, that stone mesh, open that up and type collision. In here, if we look collision complexity, we have use complex collision as simple. We want use simple collision as complex. There we go. And what this will do is this will fix it for us. Boom, rock falls, and we can move it around. And if we shoot it, it'll have the health. Beautiful. And same with our enemy. Cool. So with that done, the tree is pretty much the same. Everything is the same. So feel free to create as many as you wish. Let's go ahead now and create our UI for our player. So back to the health system folder we go, UI, user interface, user widget, WB, player health bar. So in here, we want a canvas panel and we want a progress bar like so. And if you hold Control and Shift and press any one of these, it'll align it for you perfectly. Now for the size, I want this to be 300 and maybe minus 30 on the Y. Okay, with that, I'll do 0.5 again just to see what colors I'm dealing with. Red. And for the background and fill image, we want this to be darker. We're not changing anything in the fill, but we want the box to be as a rounded box and here as well. Okay, so that's that. And we can also create the animation we had. So window, animations, create a new animation, call it fade, select fade, add, yes, we should probably name this first and call it health as the other one there and compile. And if you do so, now it should show up. It does. So like we had before, we'll do render opacity starting at 0 and we move this up to 0.5, set this to 1 and we get this interesting animation there. So close that, and in our event graph, we can do, actually we can copy paste a lot of the code. So in here, if we open that original one up and steal those immediately, since the names are the same, we won't get any compiling issues. And get rid of those. I need the construct, so we'll leave that there. So compile, and that works fine. We can also go ahead and steal this portion of the code, since it's pretty much the same. Oops, and this will just save us some time. Copy, and let's exit out of that. And we can paste this on the side. Click OK, and just refresh the main event, and then this should be okay. But if it's not, just refresh it again. Right, so on the construct event, here I actually want to create a variable called the health bar, and this is going to reference our original health bar. So search for health bar, WB health bar, object reference, and we'll make this instance editable and exposed on spawn. Because we do that, we'll be able to pass in that value when we create this widget. So get that for now, and we want to get the progress bar we had, so get progress bar health. And by the way, I forgot to mention, if you copied any of these events and you have errors, all of my names are the same for this event, so like the health bar, all of that is the same. So that's why I have no issue. So if you do, just make sure and double check your spelling and stuff. And you can always rename things. But anyway, so here we have this. We want to get the percent that we had from that bar. And in our new health bar, we want to set percent based off the old one. So very handy for us to do that there, like that. And next, I want to know about the component. So one way of doing it is get owning player pawn. So whoever owns this UI. We'll do get component by class, and the component, once again, of interest is our health component. And from here, we can do something very nice, like a bind. So plug that in there. And let's see what I gotta change. So based on this, this is okay. We need the 3 binds. We're setting this to be visible. This is that. And all is looking good. Okay, so one thing that I haven't done is, like you've seen before, this health bar is actually not visible as original. So let's do hidden. But you can have it visible if you'd like to. I just don't want to see it on the screen for now. So we're done with the health for the player. Let's go ahead and save everything. We want to now add this system to our player. So let's begin by adding the component, or the interface rather. And then we can add that component. So let's go ahead and fill these up. So once again, I'll speed run this. And finally, we have apply damage, and as well, we're doing call function, not the message. All right, so with that out of the way, we can go ahead and close all of these. And on event begin play, we want to grab our component and we want to do create health bar. And the reason we're doing it is because that value we made instance editable and expose and spawn is going to come from here. So we'll do create our widget as we would, and do health, and we want the player health bar. Plug that value into there and simply add to viewport. And boom, there we have it. We have a visible health bar, which you won't see because we need to take damage. So let's do quick keyboard events. Now, if you are doing something like this, I recommend the inputs, but since this is for testing, we can cheat a little and use those. And in here, let's do components and do apply damage. And let's do 30, well, maybe 20. And the same thing, we'll do heal. There we go. And plug that in there. And I want to heal maybe 20 as well. So with that, compile and save. Let's see how this looks like. Hit play and boom. It's not working. So let me see why. All right, so I found the issue here. Back in our players widget, we want to move this a little bit back. And just before we do all those events, in here, we want to update our percent once again. So grab that. And from this window here, before we do set visibility, we'll plug that into here. And and then we can plug that into there. And this is kind of looking clustered, so I'll move it out of the way a little bit. And there we have it. Okay, so let's compile and save this. And now we should have this working, and there we have it. So whenever we heal and damage, it shows up. So let's say it disappears and we go ahead and heal ourselves. There we go. So this is pretty much it for the health system. I hope you enjoyed. If you liked the video, leave a like. If you didn't, leave a dislike. And as always, happy developing.